There is a wheat field in southern Romania, flat, unremarkable, the kind of place you drive past without slowing down, where 24 ballistic missile interceptors sit inside vertical launch cells, pointed at the sky, waiting for something that may never come. The Aegis Ashore facility at Deveselu looks, from the outside, like a gray shipping container bolted to a concrete slab. It is, in fact, a warship without a hull. The same AN/SPY-1 radar, the same command and control architecture, the same SM-3 interceptors that protect carrier strike groups in the Pacific. Rebuilt from the ground up and dropped into a Romanian field 180 kilometers west of Bucharest. It was completed in 2016. By 2026, it has been upgraded with Block 2A interceptors, extending its reach to cover threats that didn't exist when the foundation was poured. And it is just one piece of something much, much larger. Because here's the puzzle. Romania, a country of 19 million people on the western coast of the Black Sea, is not the name that springs to mind when you think of European military power. It's not Germany, with its $100 billion rearmament fund. It's not Poland, with its 4.8% of GDP poured into tanks and rocket launchers. Romania doesn't build its own fifth-generation fighter. It doesn't have nuclear weapons. Its navy, and we'll get to the navy, has been described, even by its own allies, as the weakest link in the country's armed forces. And yet, in 2026, Romania is hosting one of the most significant NATO summits of the post-Cold War era. Its defense budget has hit $12.3 billion, a compound annual growth rate of over 22% since 2022. It has signed for 32 F-35 stealth fighters, 54 M1A2 SEPv3 Abrams main battle tanks, 7 Patriot air defense batteries, HIMARS rocket artillery, 18 Bayraktar TB2 combat drones, over 1,000 armored vehicles, and a coastal defense network built around the Naval Strike Missile. All of this while hosting NATO's multinational core Southeast headquarters, the Aegis Ashore ballistic missile defense system, and a permanent French-led NATO battle group on its soil. So, how did we get here? And how powerful is Romania's military really in 2026? Let's start where the money starts, because in defense transformation, spending is not just a signal of intent, it's the infrastructure that makes everything else possible. Romania committed to spending 2% of GDP on defense back in 2017. For years, that target was aspirational at best. In 2023, Bucharest set a budget worth 2.5% of GDP, and then actually spent just 1.6%. The gap between ambition and execution was, to put it mildly, a problem. That gap has narrowed sharply. Romania's 2026 defense budget is estimated at $12.3 billion, with $5.3 billion allocated specifically to acquisitions, the equipment, the platforms, the weapons systems that turn a military from a bureaucracy into a fighting force. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, after meeting Romania's President Nicolae Dan in March 2026, welcomed the country's commitment to 2.5% of GDP and stressed the importance of not just funding, but developing capabilities. Rutte described Romania as a steadfast ally with a crucial role in Black Sea security. Now, 2.5% is good. It exceeds the old NATO minimum. But let's put it in context. Poland is at 4.8%. Estonia is at 3.4%. The new NATO spending target, pushed aggressively by Washington, is 5% of GDP. Romania is not there yet. And there's a deeper structural issue. Romania has historically struggled to spend its own defense budget. Bureaucratic inefficiency, overlapping jurisdictions between the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Economy, and an industrial base that remains, in places, anchored to Soviet-era infrastructure. All of this slows the conversion of euros into combat power. But here's what's changed. Romania is no longer just buying equipment, it's building production lines. And that matters more than any single weapons system. Let's talk about the ground forces first, because this is where the transformation is most visible. Romania's primary main battle tank, until very recently, was the TR-85 M1 Bizonul, a domestically upgraded Cold War platform with a 100mm rifled gun, diesel engine, and a sensor architecture that was never designed for NATO speed data sharing. It was a decent tank for the 1980s. In January and February 2026, Romanian soldiers from the 284th Tank Battalion trained alongside American M1A2 SEPv3 Abrams tanks at Smardin. The exercise was not theater. It was a practical test of interoperability. Romanian and American armor operating under a single command structure, running combined defensive and counterattack scenarios. Lieutenant Colonel Mihai Bănescu, when asked about the differences between the bizonal and the Abrams, pointed directly to engine power, protection, and the caliber of the main armament. That's not diplomacy, that's a soldier listing what matters. Romania has signed 454 M1A2 SEPv3 Abrams in the first phase, with deliveries beginning in 2026. But that's just the start. Bucharest has submitted plans to Parliament for a second phase, 216 additional tanks, plus 76 derivative vehicles, at a cost of approximately 6.48 billion euros. If approved, this would give Romania one of the largest Abrams fleets in Europe and represents one of the country's biggest ever defense acquisitions. As we covered in our Abrams video, the SEPv3 is a serious machine, 120mm smoothbore gun, composite armor with depleted uranium inserts, an under-armor auxiliary power unit for silent watch, and a modern electronic architecture that connects the tank to the wider battlefield network. Below the heavy armor, Romania is building a new fleet of infantry fighting vehicles and armored personnel carriers, and it's not relying on a single supplier. General Dynamics is producing Piranha 5 8x8 wheeled vehicles at the Bucharest mechanical plant, with 227 already ordered and another 150 planned. Turkish company Otokar is delivering over 1,000 Cobra 2 4x4 armored vehicles through a joint venture with Romania's Automechanica. The first batch arrived in January 2026. And South Korea's Hanwha Aerospace has a contract for 54 K9 Thunder self-propelled howitzers, which will include the creation of an entirely new production line inside Romania. That last point deserves emphasis. Romania is not just importing hardware, it's importing factories. Piranha 5 production happens in Bucharest, Cobra 2 assembly will happen locally, K9 production will happen on Romanian soil. Each of these arrangements creates domestic industrial capacity, jobs, supply chains, and, critically, the ability to sustain and repair equipment without shipping it back to the manufacturer every time something breaks. As we covered in our Poland video, this is exactly the model that makes a military sustainable in a long war, and Romania is replicating it. Before we go deeper, a quick note. You're watching Military Hub. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. We cover the stories that shape modern warfare every single week. Now, artillery and rocket systems. Romania operates the M1A2 HIMARS, which, as anyone following this channel knows, has been one of the defining weapons of the Ukraine war. HIMARS gives Romania a precision strike capability out to 300 kilometers with ATACMS missiles. 3 systems are currently in service with 54 launchers and a mix of M31, M30A1, and ATACMS munitions. There's a catch though, munitions. Romania's HIMARS stockpiles are limited, and delays in deliveries, partly because of the sheer demand created by the Ukraine war, mean that full operational depth won't be reached until 2027. This is a problem that isn't unique to Romania, it's a NATO-wide issue. But for a country sitting on the Black Sea, within range of Russian-caliber cruise missiles, it's a vulnerability that needs addressing faster than the current timeline allows. Now let's look up. Romania's Air Force has undergone what can only be described as a generational shift. The MiG-21 Lancer, the Soviet-era fighter that was Romania's frontline aircraft for decades, was retired in May 2023. In its place, Romania now operates a fleet of F-16 Fighting Falcons. 17 were purchased from Portugal. 32 more came from Norway at a cost of 388 million euros. All are being upgraded to the M6.6 standard. An additional 18 F-16s from the Netherlands will support pilot training for Romanian, Ukrainian, and NATO aircrews, bringing the total to approximately 66 modern 4th-generation fighters by 2026. That's a dramatic improvement. But the real headline is what's coming next. In November 2024, Romania signed a letter of offer and acceptance for 32 F-35A Lightning II stealth fighters in a deal valued at approximately $6.4 to $7.2 billion. This is the single most expensive military acquisition in Romanian history. Romania became the 20th member of the global F-35 fleet and joins Belgium, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, Italy, the Netherlands, Poland, and the United Kingdom as European operators of the platform. U.S. Ambassador Kathleen Kavalek said at the signing ceremony that the planes are expected to be flying above Romania by 2030. Defense Minister Angel Tilver called them the pinnacle of aviation performance worldwide, and said they would ensure interoperability with NATO allies. Now, the F-35 won't arrive tomorrow. Deliveries are planned between 2031 and 2034. In the meantime, Romania's F-16 fleet is its primary air defense asset, integrated into NATO's air policing network. Romania hosts an F-16 pilot training center, established with help from the Netherlands and Lockheed Martin, which trains not just Romanian pilots, but Ukrainian and allied pilots too. This is quiet, foundational work, the kind that builds alliance muscle memory. And speaking of air defense, Romania is building one of the most layered air and missile defense networks in southeastern Europe. At the top of the stack sits the Aegis Ashore facility at Deveselu, the one we opened with. 24 SM-3 interceptors, now upgraded to the Block 2A variant, designed to engage short, medium, and intermediate range ballistic missiles. In March 2026, the Deveselu base system was part of the broader NATO ballistic missile defense architecture that tracked and intercepted Iranian ballistic missiles targeting Turkey. That was not a drill, that was the system proving it works in actual combat conditions. Below Aegis Ashore, Romania operates Patriot PAC-3 air defense batteries. The country now has 4 operational batteries, with 3 more on order. In January 2025, Raytheon secured a $946 million contract for additional Patriot systems, funded in part by Norway $127 million and Sweden $27 million. In April 2025, the US State Department approved another $280 million sale. In December 2025, Raytheon won a further $168 million contract. Romania's total investment in Patriot now spans multiple billions. These batteries carry PAC-2 GEM-T and PAC-3 MSE interceptors, the latter being the most advanced variant, capable of hitting tactical ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and aircraft. The Patriot system is combat-proven, battle-tested, and, as we've covered extensively on this channel, the backbone of Western air defense, from Ukraine to the Persian Gulf. Below Patriot, Romania retains older Hawk PIP-3M short-range systems, though modernization is underway. The goal is a layered architecture: Aegis for ballistic threats, Patriot for medium-range air and missile defense, and shorter-range systems for point defense. This is, by any reasonable measure, an extraordinary defensive posture for a country that was operating Soviet-era equipment barely a decade ago. The Navy. And here, honesty requires us to say, this is where Romania is weakest. The Romanian naval forces operate in the Black Sea and on the Danube River. The surface fleet includes 2 Type 22 frigates, old British designs, a Marechest-class frigate that is approaching obsolescence, and several corvettes. Coastal defense is being modernized with the Naval Strike Missile, which gives Romania an anti-ship capability that can deny sea lanes to an adversary. But the fleet itself is aging. Romania canceled a 2023 contract with France's naval group for 4 Gowind-class corvettes after legal issues and cost disputes derailed the program. In March 2026, Romania's Supreme Council of National Defense approved the procurement of a new light corvette, designed for rapid deployment. But one corvette does not make a navy. The Black Sea is contested water. As we've covered extensively in our Ukraine reporting, Russia's Black Sea fleet has been mauled, well over a third destroyed, by a country with no real navy. But the sea remains dangerous, mine-infested, and critical to both energy transit and NATO's southeastern flank. Romania needs more ships. The corvette program needs to expand. And it needs to happen faster. What Romania does have in the maritime domain, however, is something arguably more important than holes in the water: infrastructure. Mihail Kogolniceanu Airport, near Constanța on the Black Sea coast, is a major NATO transit hub. The United States has been upgrading Câmpia Târzi Air Base to bolster allied air capabilities. Romania hosts approximately $6.2 billion in active U.S. defense sales, including coastal defense systems. In March 2026, Romania approved the temporary deployment of American aerial refueling aircraft on its territory, in support of operations related to the Iran crisis. And in return, the United States deployed additional radar and satellite communication systems to strengthen the European missile shield network. Romania hosts NATO's multinational Corps Southeast, a divisional-level headquarters in Bucharest. It hosts a permanent French-led NATO battle group. And on May 13, 2026, today as this script is being written, Romania is hosting the B9 Nordic Summit, bringing together the Bucharest 9 and Nordic countries under one roof for the first time, with NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte and French President Emmanuel Macron confirmed to attend, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also expected. This is not the behavior of a minor ally. This is a country positioning itself as the anchor of NATO's southeastern flank. And then there's the drone dimension. Romania has taken delivery of 18 Bayraktar TB2 combat drones from Turkey in a $321 million deal. These are medium-altitude, long-endurance platforms capable of intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and precision strike. The same drones that redefined armored warfare in Nagorno-Karabakh and proved their worth in the early stages of the Ukraine war. The first training flights began in mid-2024, and all three systems, 6 aircraft each, are now in Romanian hands. Romania also acquired 12 MQ-35A VBAT reconnaissance drones and is integrating unmanned systems into its force structure as part of its Army transformation program through to 2040. This is early days compared to what we've covered about Ukraine's drone ecosystem, but it represents a fundamental recognition that the future of warfare is unmanned, and Romania intends to be part of that future. So let's step back and answer the question: how powerful is Romania's military in 2026? On paper, the numbers are clear: 90,000 active personnel, 55,000 reserves, a $12.3 billion defense budget, 32 F-35s on order, 54 Abrams tanks in the first wave, with 216 more planned, 7 Patriot batteries coming, HIMARS, Bayraktar drones, Piranha and Cobra armored vehicles, K9 howitzers, a ballistic missile defense shield that has already intercepted live threats, and a web of NATO infrastructure that makes Romania one of the most important pieces of real estate on the alliance's eastern flank. But here's the deeper truth, the one the numbers don't capture on their own. Romania's military power in 2026 is not defined by any single weapon system. It's defined by the trajectory. 5 years ago, this was a country struggling to spend its own defense budget, flying Soviet-era fighters, and operating tanks from the Cold War. Today, it's building domestic production lines for Western armored vehicles, hosting the most advanced missile defense system outside the United States, training allied pilots on its soil, and anchoring a summit that brings NATO's eastern and northern flanks together for the first time. The weaknesses are real. The Navy needs urgent investment, munition stockpiles are thin, bureaucracy still slows procurement. The gap between ambition and execution, that old Romanian problem, has not disappeared. But the direction is unmistakable. There is a wheat field in southern Romania where 24 interceptors point at the sky. Beside it, a country is rebuilding its military from the ground up. Not with speeches, not with press releases, with factories, with runways, with tanks rolling off assembly lines, and with the quiet, relentless logic of a nation that understands, because it lives next door to the evidence, what happens when you don't prepare. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Military Hub for more in-depth coverage of the world's most consequential military stories.